Hey folks, for this first lab, what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through the lab um, at a pace that I'll try take it slow, um, and just step through each piece and show you how, to get accustomed with the environment we'll be using for the first few weeks of this module. So I have tutors open here. Um, And if I go back to the main course, I can go to Web Development 1. Um, this might look a bit different from what you will see tomorrow, but it might look the same as well. Or sorry, during your first lecture. But we will just go into the lab here. So here we have our lab. And here we have the start of our lab. And what we're going to do is just going to get started with a text editor called Sublime Text. And we'll go through the setup of that and that kind of thing. So the first thing to do is go to sublimetext.com and download for your specific system. It'll probably know what you're supposed to download. But if you can go over here on the right hand side. If we don't know, let me get a square, it'd be a bit easier. If I can't figure out what system you're on, you can just select the system there and download the right one. And we're after Sublime Text 4 here. So I'm working on a MacBook here. So when I downloaded it, I just unzipped it and put it into my application folder. I'm unsure what the install is for Windows, but if you have any problems, just send some screenshots into the channel and let us know. All good. So what I'm going to do is just launch Sublime Text, and here we go. So it's launched there, but I'll go back to our lab and I'll zoom in a bit so we can see it a bit better. So the first thing I just wanted to mention, if you're kind of new to the area of computer science or coding, use Sublime Text, but if you have a editor that you like to use, feel free to use it. I just won't be able to help you with it, likely. I'll be partially of use to help you with Sublime Text, but we will see. So what we'll do first is just create a folder on our computer called Web Development. So, if you're on a Mac, you go to Finder. But if you're on a Windows machine, you go to your Explorer. So I'm just going to go to my home here, and I'm just going to right click and create a new folder and call it Web Development. I think it's Web Development 1, I said. No, just Web Development. It's grand. So that's created on my computer now. Great. So we'll go into Sublime Text. And if you're not used to switching applications like this, I just do it all the time without thinking about it. On a Mac, you press Command Tab, and on that I can move around and Shift Tab to go backwards. Go to an application. On Windows, that is just Alt Tab, I think I remember. We'll bring up the switcher here. So I do that a lot without thinking about it. So anything like that pops up, feel free to ask. I will help. And cool. So yeah, there's some notion here that you might want to use, create this folder somewhere like Google Drive or whatever, or OneDrive. Feel free. With HTML, that's usually fine. With other code like Java, where you're compiling, that can cause problems, but you should be fine here. So we start the lab, and what we want to do is go into Sublime and go File and Open, and just navigate to that directory. So we'll say Web Development, open that up. Great. Go back to the lab, and it asks us to create a folder called Lab01. Now we can do this in our Explorer, or we can do it in Sublime. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to do new folder. And if you have a look, just down here, this is where you enter the folder name. It's a bit weird. I get lost every time it does this. But there it is. So we're going to call this lab01. And now we have a new folder or directory created under web development. So excellent, happy days. So back to our lab. We're going to create a new file. And let's just show you what that looks like in Sublime. So I'm over here. I'm going to click. So I just right click on the folder lab1, new file, and you can see it creates a file that's kind of. Let me see if I can zoom in on this whole thing. I don't know if I can. I think I can just zoom in on the text, but let me see. I'm just zooming in on the text here. I don't know if I can zoom in on the left-hand side here. Anyway, hopefully you can see that well enough there. And so I'm just going to hit file with clicked into this untitled open file here. Just click file and save. And it'll ask me to name that file. One thing I can also do is press Control S or Command S, and it will ask me to name the file. So what I'll do is call it index.html. Perfect. So we now have a file called index.html, and we're just going to copy this text here. So, we can easily copy the text using this little button here. So I'm just going to copy that. Lovely. And put it in here and save that. So what I'm going to do now is just open this up in a web browser. So if I right click here, I have a reveal in Finder because I'm on Mac. You probably have on Windows, if you're using it, reveal in Explorer. So I'll do that, and there's the file there. So I'm going to right click that. I'm going to open that with my browser. I have Chromium. You're likely to have Chrome or another browser, whichever. I'm just using Chromium here, so it doesn't have all my plugins and stuff installed to wreck your heads. So I'm just going to open that up, and you can see we now have our file up here opened. Is John Rillis Lab, or sorry, John Web Development Lab 1 index.html. Great. So that's our first web page. And it's not really HTML, but the browser's doing us a few favors in rendering the text like that. So, so that's just a quick step through there to, get a file and a folder created and our first index file created there. So, great. So we'll go to our next step over here, which is, I guess I should say over here. On the left-hand side, when to go to just downloading images. So using what we've learned, we should create a new directory inside of lab1. So let's go there and just call it images. So if I right click here, new folder, and again, we're down here to enter our name. And I think, yeah, we're just going to call this images, press enter, and it'll pop in there. Excellent. So I'm just going to go back to the lab here. Now we've created our images folder, and what we're going to do is just going to save both of these images into that folder. So how we do that is on each image, just right click, and we can go save image as. And am I already in there? I am. Okay, so I'm in web development, lab 1, images, keep the name here the same, and just save it. And right click on the bigger image as well and save image as, and we will save that in there too. inside of images. Yep, perfect. So if we go back to Sublime Text and open up our images, we can see those images in there. Perfect. And we go back to our lab. And so yeah, so we should have, a structure pretty much exactly like this. But we're going to create a new file called apps.html. So just close the images folder, and on the lab1 folder, right click, new file, apps.html. And so watch what I'm doing here. This is a bit confusing, but it's a little shortcut to name files in Sublime. So when you add a new file, it's untitled, and whatever you type in first here and press save, so either go file save or control S or command S, depending on your system, it'll pre-populate that name there. Happy days. So when I say there, I should probably say here, because yeah, it's kind of hard to see my mouse. But if I go save, happy days, I now have apps HTML. I press Control A or Command A and just delete that. Happy days. So now I have index.html and app.html. So I'm just going to copy this here, index.html, and delete all this and paste it in. So you can right click and paste, or you can press Control V or Command V. So copying and pasting, if you haven't done it before, Control C to paste, to copy, Control V to paste. So yeah, so we're just going to save that, and we're going to grab the apps.html as well. Go over here, and again, just paste it in. Good stuff. And I'm going to go back to my, I guess we can go back to our Explorer or Finder. So if we go to apps.html and we right click, and we go reveal in Finder or reveal in Explorer, you can see we have our files here. I should note that it's my HTML files are already set up to double click and launch in a browser. They might launch in like a notepad or something on your machine, on your laptop or computer. So you can go open with and, pick a different one. So you can usually pick your browser there. And sometimes you can go into like the properties and things like that of the file to change. But I won't go through that now. But I'm just going to open that in Chromium. And we're way zoomed in. So I'm just going to reset that zoom. And this is now our index.html. So you see we have a little link buried in here. Let me get my arrow right there. And if we click that, that'll bring us to our app page where we have our images embedded. So if we just go back and look at our index.html, we have our HTML tag, we have our head tag, we have our title, we have our body, and then within our body, we have our image. So if I put that over to the side there like that, and I put this over here, I'm just going to go to the index. We can see here, the HTML on the right-hand side over here, and on the left-hand side, we can see what that is rendering. So if we see our heading here of welcome to the App Store, and I put some exclamation marks there, save that, and then come over to the browser and refresh the page. So on Mac, I'm pressing Command R, and it gets F5 on Windows, and you can see that's what we're updating there. So cool. So, the lecture notes will go through what the majority of these mean. Not all of them. But here's generally the structure of a HTML page with some images and some paragraphs. Cool. So anything else in this section? So we have our images displaying correctly, yes. we have our link working. How do we get back to index? That's an interesting question. Let's have a look at C. So we go back here, app bundle. Currently, we have no way back to index apart from the back button of our browser. Which is probably not very good design, but whatever. So we will now introduce some styling into there, right? So if we go to CSS, so what we're going to do is go back to Sublime, and I'll make that bigger, and we're going to go lab1, new file, and we're going to style CSS, save that, save, lovely. And then we are going to from our index, link that in, okay? So if we go to our index.html, in our head, we are going to put our CSS file. And I'm going to put that there like that, indented in a strange way, just so I can fix it automatically for you in a sec. So we've now added a reference to our style sheet, essentially, inside of our index.html. And if you go to Tools, Command Palette, and type reindent, hopefully you should have indentation reindent lines pop there, and you can press Enter. And what that will do is it will indent everything to what the default is on this system, which is 2 spaces of an indent. It might be different on yours, but once it's indented, as you see here, with the nesting, as we kind of talk about in lecture, and the indentations, we're happy. So if I was to, get this out of the way again, and, Tools, Command Palette, or I can press Command Shift P, or if you're on Windows, Control Shift P, type reindent, and you can see, like, if I type indent, it knows what I've liked to use before, so it'll select that for me, and then I can reindent the lines and it will fix it for me. You can probably set that up to do that and save as well, but we won't go there yet. So that's just a handy way of making sure your HTML is always indented. I think we can confuse it a little bit if we get rid of a tag. It doesn't know what to do. Whereas if I put the body back in and indent again, it does a certain indenting pattern that it's configured to do for HTML, as in it's not indenting the head within HTML. And I guess that's just to keep everything easier to view, but that's a kind of stylistic thing that you can choose to change, I think, if you want, but we won't go there yet. So we've now linked in our style sheet, and we'll go back to and we're going to put in a style for the heading 1 tag, and we're going to change the color to red. So if I split this view, open up, maybe I could do it here. Cool. I don't know why it's not letting me split the view, but we'll try it one more time. All right, it's being a bit weird for me, so I'll just continue on. And we'll go to style.css and we will type h1, because if we go back to our index, you can see we're using a h1 tag here. All right. So if I go back to my style CSS, h1, and I'll do some opening curly braces, and I'll start typing. and it'll give me some suggestions, and it is color that I want to do. So when I have this suggestion, I can just press tab and it completes a lot of it for me, and I can just say red. Perfect. And if I choose to reindent again, great stuff. And we head back to our index, refresh that page, and our title is now red. Cool. So again, in our index.html, we've just added this link to the style sheet. And if we open up style CSS, it's targeting the H1 tag and changing the color of it to red. And if we have a look at our H1 tag, here it is. Okay. So next step. The header is now red. Okay, so what we're going to do is just get rid of that and change the font. So let's copy this. So if I go back to my style sheet, and what I'll do is I'll put that over there, and we'll put our website over there. And if I refresh here, you can see we have a new font and the red is gone. And if we head back to our lab, we will also append these to the end. And we go. So now we've added some style, so essentially we've targeted our body, to have a font as we've selected here. We have said for our H1 and H2 tags, the color should be gray. And additionally, for our H1 tags, we should have a border on the bottom. So as you can see, there's a line going across the screen here now. So great. So now there's the whole CSS file in case we've messed it up. And let's see if we reindent, does it change anything? I don't think so. So there's our CSS done. So happy days. So next thing we're going to do is just have a look at the Chrome DevTools. So if you haven't downloaded Chrome, you should do so now. And feel free to set it as your default browser or not, but I'm going to be using it a lot during this module, but up to you completely. So what we're going to do is just open up our page here. I'm going to right click and click inspect, and we've opened up the Chrome developer tools here. Zoom in a little bit on them. We can also press Command Option I to pop them up. And we have elements and console and different things across the top. We want to go to the elements section. So that was Command Option I, or for Windows, Control Alt I, as far as I know. So with the DevTools open, we can now just edit. We are editing this live. Don't want to click save. And we can see over here on the left-hand side, we've now edited it. In case you missed that, because I popped up something by mistake there, I'll just go boop, 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 and press enter. There we go. So we've edited a page, live there. So great. Oh yeah, one thing that's kind of funky to do as well, and when you're testing out designs, is to muck around with the CSS on the live page. So if I go here and go, so if I go to my heading and I right click and go inspect, and I can see the styles down here. And let me get this bigger. We can see the styles over here. And so we were in, the elements section up here. You might get lost at some point. Elements section there. And, we've clicked here either on H1 or we've right clicked over here and gone inspect. And one thing you can also do is select this cursor here and you end up over here. Um, and yeah, so we can go over here to the color and just change it for the left. Press enter. No, that didn't work. Let me just pick one of these. There we go. And you can see our page style is changing as we click around. Cool. We can also do something like, change this to 50, solid blue. Looks good. And you can see as I'm clicking around, because I have this arrow selected here, which is kind of select an element on the page, it's kind of jumping all over the place. It's a bit confusing, so let's just get rid of that. And we can select elements by selecting from the text over here. Let me just delete them as well. Huzzah. So yeah. So yeah, you're now a web developer. Happy days. So what I'll do is step through some of the exercises. So, the solution of what we've been doing so far is available pretty much here. So if you click on that, it'll bring us to old enough link where you can download the zip. So I'd recommend downloading the zip here, unless you know what a tar GZ is. Download the zip, unzip it, and you can, view that in the browser the same way we've been doing. But I have everything done here, so I'm not going to download that. But see if you can get the zip downloaded and opened up inside of Sublime, because we're going to be providing some examples and solutions and stuff over the next few weeks that you will need to do that with. So we're going to add a few more apps, quote unquote, to our apps.html. So I'm just going to go to this suggested link. Pick an image. I think these are kind of, or just pick one of these. And on the image, right click, save the image as, call it new app. You can see it's a weird format that you might not be used to, and that's okay. It'll work fine. It's not a JPEG or whatever. So we navigate to our web development, our lab one, and inside of our images, we will just save that. And I'm just going to call it new app here, just so I can type it easy, and just save. And if we go into our Sublime text, let me open up the index page here. Let me refresh, close the console, go into our apps, happy days. And let's open up apps.html on this side. So if we have a look here, our app begins with a H3 for freebie. And so we're just going to copy all the way down to the horizontal rule. So the horizontal rule is this HR tag here, and you can see the horizontal rule going across the page here. So I'm just going to copy from the HR all the way up to H3, paste that, and maybe just throw a new app in under the image here. So you can see my indentation is off, so I'm going to just re-indent the page. Happy days. And I'm going to go new app. This is my new app. And then the image we're going to look for is this one here. So we go back to my apps.html, and I say new app dot, and we just change the alt to new app, and I save that and refresh over here. We can see my new app has now appeared here. And so you can add a few more just to get used to, what's going on. The horizontal rule in the heading. So we have our heading, we have a paragraph to hold our text. We have a paragraph to kind of separate our image so, that it drops down to the next line essentially. And then we have our horizontal rule. Okay, I'd recommend trying to add another there. Feel free to get the images from anywhere else. There might be easier images to work with. So what we're going to do is create a directions page. So let's right click on lab 1, create a new file, call it directions.html, save it. And then what we're going to do is curly brace, or sorry, angular bracket, type HTML, and just going to press tab. And it's like magic has happened, right? So this can be counterintuitive to learning sometimes, but when you're using a tool, built for the development, it tries to make your life a lot easier. So all we really did there, HTML, and if we press tab, and maybe not tab, or maybe it's just not doing it for me now because I didn't want to do it. Yeah, there we go. It will give me my doc type. It'll give me my HTML tag, my head tag, some meta viewport setup, which we won't go through right now, and the title. So I'm just going to put directions in the title. And if I just type here, we are in the directions page now. And if I go back to my index.html, I'm going to add a link in there to the directions. So we have our list. I'm going to just open up index on this side so we can see where we're at. So then just after our unordered list, I will open up a p tag again, press tab, and it will auto-complete the p tag for me, which is great. I'm going to open up an a tag and say href is equal to directions.html. And I'm going to close off my a tag and I'm going to drop it down just on the page just so it's a bit easier for us to read. And get your directions here. So if we refresh our index page, we now have our link. We can click it and it brings us to our directions page. So let's grab let's grab the image here and let's grab the H1 and let's go to our directions page, and at the top of our body we're just going to put in, we're going to re-indent, lovely, and we're going to put our image in there and we're going to put our heading there and we're going to refresh that. Great stuff. We're going to write a P and we're just going to say go left after the right, see you there. Great, and we refresh here on this side and you can see now from our index page we want to get directions to the App Store. Here we are. Great stuff. What we should do as well then, I guess, is in our directions.html page is put in a link to our CSS. So what we can do is look at how we did that in index. We can grab this line here. So I'm just highlighting it and pressing Control or Command C. You can right click and copy. Go into directions and under the title again, I'll paste it in. If we go back to our directions page, refresh, our style is now there. So now we have our directions page and our index page referencing our style sheet. Happy days. So there is a very good HTML reference to read. I would recommend it if HTML is new to you. And then there's also the possibility of looking at some lists. So the Mozilla Development Network docs are absolutely excellent. This is what we'll be using a lot. But we're going to have a go at a simple list. So we're going to use, we have an unordered list, or we have an ordered list. So what does the lab ask us to do? It says we have an unordered list in our application somewhere. Is that in the index? Yeah. So here it is here. So what we could in theory do is below that, and if I bring up our index page, let's add an unordered list. So let's give ourselves a heading, and let's call it maybe like sitemap, and close off our h2 tag. And we're going to add an unordered list, or an ordered list, excuse me. So we're going to do ordered list OL, and we're going to add a list item. Great, we'll add a list item, and I'm just going to close off that tag. What I'm going to do as well is just going to close off the unordered list tag, the ordered list tag. I'll get it right eventually. And I'm just going to put, let's say apps, and we'll add another one and just say directions in there, right? And if I refresh, you can see over here, I have my new sitemap with my apps and directions, and we want to make those links. So let's do that. So we open up an A tag, href equals directions.html, and we're going to keep that text to be within our A tag. Great. And the same with the apps here. We're going to open up our A tag. Href is equal to apps.html. I think it is. And we want to close our A tag there. Just going to re-indent. We're looking good. Refresh this. Now I can click into, is it apps or app? Oh yeah, sorry. I have a mistake here. So what happened there is I clicked on a link that was incorrect, because as you can see down where my arrow is, I'm going to app.html when I should be going to apps.html. So just going to update that, refresh the page, go to apps, and go to directions, and you can see here I've gone to apps and directions. And if we do a inspect, right click inspect, you can see my unordered list, and you can also see my link and things like that. So we can drop things out of our list, happy days, that kind of thing. So just have one last look at our code. We've created an ordered list with 2 items, and as you can see in our page, this is 1 and 2, and whereas an unordered list is just bullet points. Okay, I think that's everything today. Have a look at the styling list link, and also then have a look at seeing if you can mess around with some other web pages in the dev console. So yeah, best of luck with that. Feel free to ping into the channel if you have any issues. we took ourselves kind of, at a nice little pace today. If you found it too fast, hopefully you can, slow the video down maybe, and just let me know. And if not, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.